Mars in Cancer. Cancer is a water sign and hence known to be very introverted and sensitive. Mars is that fiery energy that determines our drive and the way we do things and the way we move forward. So in Cancer, you can already imagine that Mars is not very assertive. It is moving slowly and with a lot of care, because for Cancer, safety is always a big topic, right? Cancers always want to feel safe. So when they need to move and do something, Mars in Cancer tends to always be very careful about each and every next step, unless they have a very safe environment and very supportive people that help them doing what they're doing. They are kind of insecure about moving forward. Cancer is also like the toddler, the baby sign, so they need a lot of support in order to do something. Emotional support or safety, that they operate in an environment where they know that the conditions and the people are safe and easily predetermined, because they don't like surprises, because they're very emotional. They want to avoid getting surprises when they execute their plans, because that throws them off and then they're kind of lost. So Mars in Cancer tends to move slowly and with care when they do something. Apart from that, since a Mars in Cancer is moody, their energy levels depend very much on their mood. They cannot just execute and do things like a Mars in Capricorn. They always depend on their emotional state. So if they wake up and they're in a good emotional state, they have a good day with their friends and family, nobody upset them, then they can move forward. But if something upset them emotionally, they are blocked, they cannot move forward. So for them it's always very important to have their emotions aligned before they can actually move and do something and get physically active. They are the strongest, like I said, when they are supported by friends, family and loved ones in whatever they do, or when they are fighting for a cause for their friends, family or loved ones, then, or for helping or saving other people. They get really motivated by that. Since Cancer, or the crab as the animal, moves sideways, they don't move forward and backward. Crabs always go sideways. This is also the way people with a Mars in Cancer move. They will always circle around the situation and try to feel out all the conditions and the environment. They never move straight forward, like I said, because they don't like to encounter some kind of hurdles or roadblocks on the way that might throw them into an emotional surprise state, because they know that they cannot regulate quickly emotionally, so they try to avoid emotional surprises. So they will circle around, feel things out, and then move according to their intuition. They always have a good intuition about which way to go, and they follow it very much. So they are emotional doers and intuitive doers. Since it is an energy that is very much about nurturing and family, they get very emotionally attached to their projects. Like if they have a project, for them it is like a child, so they put a lot of emotional energy to it and get very attached to it, and they nurture it like it was a child and protect it and want it to grow. So if something goes wrong in the project, that affects them emotionally as well. So you see, with the Cancer, Mars in Cancer, everything they do is very much tied in with their emotions. So it makes them very upset if something goes wrong. So when working with somebody who has a Mars in Cancer, and you know that, it would help if you always had kind of a plan B for them, so that they know what will happen if something goes wrong, that they know that they have a safety net, that they know that they can fall back into if something goes wrong in the plan. That would help them to be more relaxed and put more energy into the project and put their guards down, because they usually operate or move forward with a lot of guard. Okay. When it comes to conflicts, Mars in Cancer is very evasive. They, like I said, don't have strong emotional control, and the emotions that they mostly fall into are not rage, it's more like sadness. So they would rather start crying than start screaming, and they know that, right? So they will try to avoid conflict because they know that they will start crying or get emotional very quickly in the conflict, and they can't really handle themselves. So they will mostly try to avoid direct confrontation, and that isn't always positive because many times it just makes their anger come out sideways through guilt tripping or some emotional manipulation or just holding grudges and being passive aggressive. This is not something they do consciously, it's just their whole coping mechanism of trying to avoid their own anger, but they can't because they're so emotional that it still keeps coming out. And yeah, it's just like coming out in a very passive aggressive way. So when you have to interact with that, you cannot confront them directly because they don't know how to handle it. Maybe you should rather announce a conversation so that they have time to emotionally prepare for it, or write them a letter so they can take time to process it and then come back to you. So everything that happens with them that has to do with confrontation and conflict has to happen in a like very safe environment, in a set framework, so they are not overthrown. Because when they feel pushed into a corner, then they can really have emotional outbursts of like crying and tears and emotional storms, and then they feel unsafe and they withdraw and they shut down. Like shutdowns are a very big thing of Mars in Cancer, right? Because they are like this crab that has this shell, so they just like they close down and you don't get to them anymore because they don't feel safe. Right, so a lot of care and preparation and careful approaches when dealing with a Mars in Cancer. Now, when it comes to sexuality, a Mars in Cancer enjoys deep emotional ties, intimacy, and definitely feeling safe. They are attracted to nurturing and caring partners, and they like emotional bonding and deep, soulful, like sexual encounters. That's what you would expect me to say, right? But I'm here to tell you that my personal experience with Mars in Cancer, and I don't refer to my own experience, but my working experience throughout 20 years has been a completely different one. I am here to defy everything they write down in textbooks. That is not how you will find Mars in Cancer being in real life. They are none of this. I have been thinking for decades and talking to astrology colleagues for decades about why that is. But Mars in Cancer is absolutely not that type that is into deep emotional connection and only sex with a partner, and absolutely not. They are one of the kinkiest, most perverted Marses out there. This emotional thing you will rather find with the other water signs, with Mars in Pisces or Mars in Scorpio, even with Mars in Libra. But the whole part of deep emotional ties, Cancer is not it now. The Mars in Cancer, as I have experienced it with hundreds of clients, is very perverted. I assume this is because Mars in Cancer is in fall, right? It's an exhalation in Capricorn, and in Cancer it is in its fall. So Mars somehow cannot express itself directly. It expresses itself in all other possible side areas. It doesn't express itself directly in this physical. Maybe they are disconnected from the physical because Cancer is not really a sign that is very incorporated. It is more emotional. So they try to find ways in sexuality to put out all of their intense emotions. And that is why I think they are so drawn to kink. And they like enjoy finding ways to express intensity and emotions. And the emotions they often suppress in their daily life are emotions of rage and anger. So that all comes out in sexuality with Mars in Cancer. They somehow always need some kind of fetishes and kinks in order to be even able to get into the sexy mood. Like I found with them a lot liquid fetishes, like body fluid fetishes, all kinds of body fluids. I find a lot with them nurturing fetish, that they actually kind of are the dom or treat you in a sadistic way, but pretend that they take care of you as if you are their little baby. What else? They like victimization. So they like being hurt, like in a physical and also in an emotional sense. That's also something like a kink that they have in sexuality. There's like a lot of these very Cancerian things when you think about it. It is very Cancerian. That they express through sexuality. This whole thing about them loving, nurturing, and caring, it is present. Like a Mars in Cancer will always be like very nurturing in everything surrounding the actual act of sexuality. Like they will cook for you, they will treat you nicely, they will indeed like to invite you to their home and set up the whole scene with a nice dinner for you. But when it actually gets to the sexual act, that's where all the kink and all the perversion comes out, and how they actually cannot directly connect to sex, but they need all these extra elements in order to put them in a mood of sexuality. That said, they are also never hypersexual. Like they are not assertive. When you sleep with them, you do feel like they don't really care if this is happening or not. Could be happening, could not be happening. They're like there, but they're also semi-absent. It's like sometimes you wonder, do they really want to be there? And when you bring those kinks in, that's when they're drawn back. But with the actual raw physical part of sexuality, they are not that connected to it. And very often there's also not that much physical excitement, or sometimes some like dysfunctions when it comes to sexuality with Mars in Cancer. I didn't want to at all crash Mars in Cancer, but this is my experience, and I don't think there's anything bad about it. It's just very interesting, and it's very different from what they will tell you in the books about Mars in Cancer. I'm very curious to hear back from those Mars in Cancers out there and those who have them as partners. What do you think about my interpretation of Mars in Cancer? See you next time.